Howdy folks, my name is Will Karen, please subscribe, and today I want to talk about mole people. I'm about to take you on a little adventure to shed light on the hollow earth theory. A theory suggesting that the earth is mostly hollow and contains pockets of space inhabitable by humans and likely pre-inhabited by species unknown, such as mole people. This theory was introduced into the sciences as an explanation. Someone theorized that within these subterranean layers exist environments with their own magnetic poles rotating separate from one another. This theory was studied and championed by Edmund Halley as an explanation for when your compass was being all weird. And he also lumped in an explanation to Aurora Borealis in all of this, claiming that the gas escaping from subterranean habitats up north is what's responsible for all those beautiful lights. If you're asking me, I think that somebody likes subterranean fiction a little too much. Can you believe that people in the 17th century believed in silly things that we now know are scientifically disproved 3.5 centuries later? To give Halley some credit, he did make many scientific contributions, such as predicting periodic returns of the now titularly named Halley's Comet, among many other things. So you might think that this guy was a big fat dummy for thinking that mole people are real, but he has a comet named after him, and you have social anxiety when you go to crowded restaurants. Pathetic. This theory was not popular at all and was considered pseudo-scientific, but I do understand why Halley and others were hollow earth truthers. Dante's Inferno was kind of a banger. Also, who doesn't want to meet a mole person? I want to meet a mole person. This mic is way too close to my mouth. The next prominent person who unlocked this obsession was a fellow by the name of John Clive Symes Jr. This bozo saw the horrors of war and then came out wanting to meet a mole person. This man persistently lobbied Congress to allow him to fund expeditions to discover the hollow earth and created many theories on the subject that were all pointed and laughed at. Just to give you a little context though, back then was whimsical. Lots of scientific minds were ridiculed for their ideas while being objectively correct, but just at the wrong time. This person right here said that washing your hands would stop the spread of diseases, and he died before the theory of germs was scientifically accepted. Everyone thought he was a dumbass. The OG germaphobe, rest in peace, buddy. Also, who knows, maybe John and Halley were right and we just haven't discovered mole people yet. John was bouncing off of another theory and proposed that there are two openings to the subterranean earth, one on the North Pole and one on the South Pole, which was a theory as both of these North and South Poles have not been officially discovered at the time. John managed to recruit a fellow by the name of Jeremiah N. Reynolds, or J.N. Reynolds for short, into his ideology. But in a backstabbing move, J.N. Reynolds decided to base his expedition on grounded research in science. Whatever the hell that means. Because doing that was the only way an expedition could get funding, but he clearly didn't have any ulterior motives to meet any mole people or anything like that. President John Quincy Adams liked exploration and nature a whole lot, but a lot of people erroneously think that he got mole man pilled by the duo as well, which I do have to admit, that is a very funny idea, and I like that idea a lot. I want to believe it in a very reactionary way, but it's fake news. There's historic consensus that he thought that John was a crackpot. Although that funding fell through, so JN self-funded an expedition to the South Pole, but his crew hated him and marooned him in Chile. And then he wrote a book that inspired Moby Dick. And I'm like 99% sure that he did not meet a mole person. But something very interesting happened while I was doing research to find funny conspiracy videos of mole people. I got a bunch of results of real people discovering colonies of mole people underground. Holy moly. I didn't hear about this discovery. The government must be hiding it from us. They finished the job, you three. You can all rest easy now. We did it, yo. And then I clicked on one of the videos, and it was indeed not a video about mole people, but just communities of homeless people who are not half mole and who do not live in a hollow layer of the earth as told by legend. This is what comes up when you search mole people on YouTube. Homeless people are not mole people if they live underground. Homeless people are human beings. I bet that you've interacted with someone who you didn't know was homeless very recently. Being homeless doesn't mean you sleep outside or you sleep in a tent in a city. Being homeless could mean that you live in your car or you couch surf. The reasons why people are homeless are plentiful. Wealth inequality and economic hardship, that's the biggest one. But also familial abuse, trauma, inadequate medical and mental health treatment, inadequate health care, as lots of people are one hospital visit away from becoming homeless. And then just imagine long-term not having four walls, not having a place to store your food or wash your clothes, not having friends and family you can rely on, always being outside and rained on, always having to watch your back for your own safety, and how that might affect your ability to be pleasant to be around, get and keep a job and get your life on track, and maintain a sense of sanity. I'm gonna be completely real. If I didn't have a place to sleep for years and years, I'd probably be very difficult to be around. I'd probably stop caring about my appearance and hygiene. I'd probably seek self-medication to deal with the constant discomfort and trouble that comes with being homeless. And in this hypothetical, I would be evil, dangerous, homeless supervillain numero uno if I had to occasionally deal with people using my suffering for content. That would be what pushes me over the edge, I swear to goodness. Yeah, so I have problems with these videos. This content and the people who make it, their sensibilities, their mannerisms, and the general drive for what creates these videos, they often remind me of Logan Paul's forest vlog video. Yep. Now, Logan Paul obviously got in a lot of trouble for making this video. He made the template for YouTube apology videos in response, and clearly didn't learn any lessons that intervened with this little habit of making degenerate content. But this seems very similar to me. Obviously, two different ball games, but still. But it's intriguing for some folks. To many viewers who have a disconnect to self-harming behavior or a history of it, and in the case of today's topic, a disconnect to homelessness, never having a person they're close to experience it or experience it themselves, it's an unsettling adventure. The entertainment factor is huge if you are an outsider. Almost like watching a horror movie. After all, they film these things like Ghost Adventure episodes, with Zach Bagans' voice and everything. What are these homeless people doing in here? We want answers. However, these people are not deceased, and if they are not buried yet. These are real people's lives, and you have to be very careful to not be tone deaf when covering this topic. Or, you know, careful to not show a body on screen. I think it goes without saying that Logan's video lacked a critical element of not being a sensationalist, content-hungry asshole, and coming in with a nuanced narrative, a message, a documentation process that isn't inherently juvenile and degrading. I guarantee you, not one person on Earth thought to themselves, silly spill the cup challenge impossible? Yeah, this guy needs to make an investigative piece on the Aokigahara forest and the concerning rate of self-harm in Japan. Moving on to mole people. The mole bit comes in because these homeless people seek shelter in tunnel systems and urban environments. Many of these people are deprived of sunlight, or they maybe haven't seen sunlight for a while. They live in or under bridges, abandoned subway systems, sewers, etc. And they're kind of talked about like they're boogeymen. You know, like, oh, these mole people come out and steal children. Oh, these mole people, they eat flesh. Mole people, I guess, is a pretty well-recognized term that I personally find to be nauseating. Like, being homeless in a country with more than enough resources to care for you isn't dehumanizing enough, right? It is important to note that mole people is a widely denounced and sensitive description. Homeless outreach groups that work with these people pretty much across the board implore you to not use this language to describe humans. The term has a grasp on pop culture, so I guess it's here to stay because it's catchy, and society inherently hates and dehumanizes homeless people as a baseline. I don't know. But new videos about this topic seem to drop like every single week. Way too many of these videos. Like, a lot of the time people go through all of this effort and then like get 0 views. Like, damn, you went through all of that for this? I struggle with views too, so the YouTuber in me says, damn, that's rough, buddy. To put a lens on everything, I'm just gonna quickly reference the man who put us into this entire situation. No, not Logan Paul, although he partially did, but Mr. Beast. It cannot be argued that this man has influence, and YouTube is a hell of a lot more different of a place since his meteoric uprising. Mr. Beast has changed the landscape of YouTube. When you post something nowadays, it's competing with this refined, systematic approach to making videos insanely attention-grabbing and extravagant, which funnels a lot of other content creators into taking this same approach. I need to stop doing hand motions. I just hit my computer. There have been many a documentary about people who seek shelter in tunnel systems. I can't speak for all of them, but of the ones that I have seen, they're all pretty tasteful and they don't use any deceptive or dehumanizing tricks to boost their views. They follow certain rules, they have restraint, and they don't seek to entertain, but rather to inform. And that is the key difference here. If you're posting on Mr. Beast's YouTube and you're doing the job of an investigative journalist, you are constantly being tempted to break the rules of ethical, nuanced, and tasteful journalism because you are competing with videos attempting to entertain the masses. And that's where a disconnect happens. The channels that make these videos are usually vloggers and YouTube journalists, and a lot of it has to do with the obsession of poverty tours. There are these videos with millions of views of people recording themselves while walking through areas of cities with really high rates of homelessness and poverty. The reason why this kind of content is popular is because it conjures up strong emotions from viewers. Seeing people in distress, seeing people suffering, seeing people going through a crisis, it evokes very, very strong feelings. And those feelings, they can be addictive for many people. Seeing this stuff either evokes empathy or rage, and both emotions are just as profitable as the other. It's better if you can understand which of these two archetypes of video fits into, but because there's so much goddamn feel-good charity videos on YouTube, even the rage bait content has elements of charity. And to be clear, I think that some people who make these videos do actually care. They don't always make bad content, but sometimes they accidentally do exactly that. A lot of people on paper set out to humanize the subjects in their videos, but very ironically, they, in my opinion, stoop to sensationalizing and demeaning homeless people for clicks. Very often, I see this fish out of water routine where they present substance abuse and extreme poverty as like a circus show, and sometimes even make jokes about these horrible situations. Like they literally make fun of very vulnerable people with life-destroying addictions. It's very strange because, like, anybody can pick up a camera and just set out to cover a topic that they are unbelievably unqualified to cover with good intentions or with bad intentions and, you know, just display themselves as horrible, exploitative people. I think a lot of people who make this content are scummy for many reasons, but I very, very, very much want to encourage homeless folks having an outlet to tell their stories. It's a good thing that lots of people are able to hear their voices, so long as they are willing and happy to speak. It is ultimately a great thing, so long as they aren't being misrepresented, distorted, or used as part of an agenda that they aren't aware of. These people who were once voiceless and forgotten get to just talk, give the world their story. Lots of people who make these videos are content starved, and it's so incredibly easy to spot. Not all of this content sucks, but a good amount of it does suck. At best, you get a decent piece of documentation that is cautiously produced and successful in not exploiting their subjects. Middle of the road, you get people who are out of their depth in every sense of the term, who don't care about the subjects of the video.
A little nervous. I haven't been nervous for a video in so long, only because it's like really unpredictable. What if a motherfucker just pop out the cut, syringe in my ass? All of a sudden, I'm... You got, style.
Or instances of extreme whiplash. Creators who talk about people living at their absolute lowest, horrifying situations, things that would make anyone with empathy cry if they saw it in real life, and then they hit you with a cheerful sponsor segment or just flashbang you with a promotional graphic of Big Booba Hot Chip Challenge skydiving. Worst case scenario, you get vloggers like this.
In these tunnels lives many, many homeless people and crackheads.
In an effort to avoid these floods, an underground tunnel system was built, which, like anything in America, got taken over by homeless crackheads, but more on that later.
Hopefully you can buy another hit of with that.
This begs a question. Aside from the first group of people, does anyone actually give a shit about the homeless people in their stories that they are subsequently making money off of? Or are they just doing this purely for content, just like the Logan Paul Forrest video? Well, it's impossible to know for sure because, again, in order to get reliable views, you need to follow the rules of YouTube's modern ecosystem and make a video where you're constantly doing the soy jack pointing meme in your thumbnail so it looks identical to everyone else's thumbnails. You know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, so make the same exact fucking thing that everyone else makes. And aside from that, depict the subjects as zombies and edit, perform, and present the video in a manner that does not respectfully capture the weight and tone of the subject matter. And this kind of poisons the well and makes me question every single action they do, even knowing that there is a possibility that the care could be genuine. But I consider many to most of these videos as a net positive regardless. I'm specifically talking about the videos where, yes, the creators do interview homeless people and like attempt to humanize them in some way, even if there are other elements of the videos where they dehumanize them for clicks. But also do stuff like buy homeless people hotel rooms, pay for their meals, sometimes even talk with homeless outreach professionals who know what they're talking about and allow them to talk about the situation. I'm glad the homeless folks get exposure, their situations get talked about, they get room and food, and maybe even help getting an ID replacement and whatever else was offered to them. Lots of homeless people are endangered by flash flooding in this tunnel system, and losing an ID is the biggest obstacle to getting a job and apartments and getting clean. Regardless of intention, it's pretty cool that they are putting a spotlight on all this stuff. Y'all get a pass. I think very often your content is weird, and I bet a lot of y'all don't actually care, but you know what? I'll take your word for it. Although, right-wing YouTube journalists, they are very often abhorrent when it comes to homeless people, using them not only as a lucrative content source, but also to push political goals that end up harming them. So before we take a dive into an example of an extremely dehumanizing mole person video, let's talk about the principles of journalism. Journalists should tell the truth. They should not be influenced by special interests, they should not take sides, their actions and their work should not harm people, and they should recognize when they are wrong. Journalists all over the globe have risked their jobs, their reputation, their lives in order to tell the truth. What kind of risks? Assassinations from governments and powerful people who want the truth hidden. Truth means a lot to a lot of people, so if you are in the truth-telling business and you do anything to distort the truth, people are going to question your status as a journalist. But here's a secret. If you put the word citizen or independent in front of the word journalist, none of those rules apply to you and you still get to call yourself a journalist. It's actually kind of wild. Let's take a look at this video right here and determine if it's good journalism or not. Tyler Oliveira. There have already been many videos made about how much this guy sucks and about how his content is bad. If you want the full context, go check those videos out, but that is not the point of this video. I'm just looking at one video. Anyways, Tyler Oliveira is the YouTuber who made this thumbnail of him pointing at what appears to be an AI-generated, or at the very least, heavily photoshopped image of a drug zombie. The video has not even started yet and I already feel manipulated. So it begins with Tyler appearing to be running for his life as part of a silly little coming up soon reel. Turns out that was fake. We learned later in the video that it was literally nothing. He thought it was a floodgate opening, but it was just a random sound. From my perspective, a deceptive trick to hone engagement. Grade A journalism so far. Within the first couple minutes of the video, Tyler makes enemies with a homeless outreach organization called Holy Smoke. This organization does all sorts of outreach, but they seem to come under fire by groups championing anti-homeless efforts for handing out free recreational doobies to homeless people. But hey, that's legal in Nevada, and homeless people often have medical issues that could benefit from partaking. So Tyler, without providing any actual evidence besides poorly interpreting the language of a text message, suggests that the organization put a hit out on him. At one point in the video, he also accused this organization of distributing legal recreational substances that were possibly laced with illegal harmful substances that they bought from untrustworthy individuals, in turn poisoning homeless folk. And I thought to myself after watching that, there is no way that's true. And also, there was no compelling evidence presented that proves this at all. No evidence that Holy Smoke actually bought and distributed what they said they did. So I decided to look into it, and I found Holy Smoke's response video, and yeah, they debunked everything that Tyler said, if you could even call it debunking. There was nothing to debunk, no need for counter evidence or receipts of any kind, because Tyler was just yapping. He didn't make a case at all, he just said that they did these things. And they made some great points that I will be borrowing in this video. But Tyler made these batshit insane allegations, all because someone from Holy Smoke called this guy an asshole. Which a leader of Holy Smoke immediately apologized for this comment in the video once he saw that it offended Tyler, but the apology wasn't good enough. Tyler said that the reason this comment was made is because this man was handing out $5 to homeless people. Aww. What a nice thing to do, right? Here's a video of this man handing out $5 to a homeless person.
Hey, I'm with my friends. I was wondering if you would want to talk to him for a second for $5. Is this something you would want to do, dear? No? Okay. So this is, she is severely mentally ill.
Yeah, I had to blur the whole thing out. This person is having a full-on crisis. This human being has likely never been lower than this very moment, and this man, Kevin Dahlgren, approaches them asking for an interview for $5 when they clearly are in the middle of screaming and are incapable of giving an interview. Tyler filmed and posted this person's crisis. In this video, he also recorded and posted people having straight up overdoses. Back to this video though. This video has a framed topic that I can only categorize as unbelievably inaccurate. The claim of this video, featured in the title, is that in Portland, Oregon, all drugs are legal. That is not true. That is misinformation. At the time, possession was decriminalized. This was all part of this ridiculous right-wing push to make Portland, Oregon seem like it's an Antifa hellscape where you'll get stabbed by drugged-up gang members for waving an American flag and being a patriot. Funny thing about Kevin Dahlgren, I've seen him bring up the times that he's been assaulted with weapons by homeless people, mind you, because he gets in their faces and films them against their wishes, as like a brag, a credential as his work as a former homeless outreach professional. You see, that's kind of silly to me. Like, imagine if that was any other profession. Don't worry, I'm a great pilot. I've crashed a plane 5 times, so I think I know what I'm doing. He was a homeless outreach professional, but I'm not sure how effective his outreach was. He continuously pushes narratives that the underlying issue of homelessness is drug abuse and government assistance making being homeless too easy. He's a former board member and president of a Pacific Northwest homeless outreach group called We Heart Seattle, with a branch named We Heart Portland. This organization has faced some pretty heavy criticism from local organizers and critics, alleging the destruction of personal property by volunteers and impersonating caseworkers. Kevin's take on homelessness, or at least how I understand it, is that cities are enabling homelessness through harm reduction and services that provide shelter, food, and assistance that are not contingent within programs designed to get people substance and mental health treatment, and that this is the best approach to get people off the streets. This is called the treatment first approach, and it usually frames homelessness through the lens of personal responsibility. The biggest problem I have with this approach, aside from it being demonstrably ineffective, is that it misdiagnoses the cause of homelessness. Homelessness is first and foremost an issue of the economy and wealth inequality. Stuff like stagnant wages, economic hardships that lead to housing insecurity. The root cause of homelessness is not having a home. Can't fucking believe I need to say that. Sure, drug abuse can absolutely be a factor, but it's mainly an issue of affordability, rental prices, and housing access. Housing is so important. Recovery is far more likely to work if housing is involved. So requiring substance abuse and mental health treatment for access to housing and nutrition is an inherently flawed idea, and historically these models do not perform well. The treatment first approach also typically advocates for clearing homeless encampments because they're gross and icky and disgusting. You want to know what happens in camp sweeps? State violence. But in the case of volunteer-led sweeps, throwing out people's belongings such as ID cards, medicine, and valuables. This pushes people toward substance abuse and mental health crisis, not away. And also, these people are just gonna move to new encampments. Not to mention, limiting things such as harm reduction and street accessible food distribution will lead to more sickness, malnutrition, and death. This is the homeless approach favored by many city governments and is popular amongst homeowners and conservatives. And while I totally agree that cities need to do a hell of a lot more to help homeless people and are incredibly wasteful and inefficient at solving this issue, I think that this is a horrible approach and that this guy and this organization are actively spreading harm. Now, I said that Kevin was a homeless outreach professional because, as far as I know, he is no longer working with any such organization or city government because, according to court records and reporting from Oregon outlets, Dahlgren pleaded guilty in 2025 to charges related to misusing a city procurement card meant for homeless outreach and agreed to pay $16,000 in restitution. Yikes! This guy says that cities are wasting money on programs that don't help homeless people. Isn't that ironic? Isn't that like a little ironic? Now he's an independent journalist. Full circle. And it seems like his whole thing now is just like he just posts videos of homeless people in crisis without their consent, and what I personally consider to be rage bait content. And you know, your average whining about harm reduction and housing first approaches. And you probably forgot that I am talking about this video. Now, back to reality. This is Tyler's homeless outreach contact. Ooh, what a professional we got here. Although, to be fair, he was arrested after this video was published. Either way, his contact has proven himself to consistently be volatile and unbelievably biased beforehand, not someone who your average journalist would consider a reputable source. So let's run this back. In this piece of journalism, Tyler Oliveira accused a homeless outreach organization of recklessly endangering homeless people without any actual evidence. He also accused them of putting a hit out on him, which is just absolutely silly. As far as the rest of the video contents, in my opinion, he was incredibly exploitative towards homeless individuals. Aside from a couple brief interviews he conducted, it did not seem like his intentions were to humanize these people. It seemed like he was mainly interested in content and screwing around in the tunnels. There was barely any time dedicated to talking about how to actually help these people. The video mainly revolved around rage bait, a weird beef he had with Holy Smoke, and he also framed the video as first and foremost an expose, an adventure, an unsettling and dangerous jaunt. From the outside of the video, he also used dehumanizing language and imagery to depict and describe these vulnerable people who desperately need help. And finally, he brought on an inflammatory and biased homeless outreach expert who would soon face legal consequences for reportedly doing something I can only describe as ironically exploiting a system of homeless outreach for personal gain. This is probably the worst type of mole person video. It is abhorrent and an affront to the very concept of principled journalism. And guess what? It comes back to Mr. Beast. It always comes back to Mr. Beast. You want to know what kind of videos Tyler Oliveira was making before he started making these horrible videos? He was a Mr. Beast clone, man. I think you could call him a Mr. Beast clone. I don't really know. I've never seen one of Mr. Beast's videos, but the vibes are spiritually the same. Oh, you think I'm horsing around? If you beat my Lamborghini in a race, you get to keep it. I built a real house using Minecraft tools. I flew a Charizard across America. You cannot tell me that the content that I just reviewed is not at least somewhat a consequence of Mr. Beast. I will not listen to you. We're here right now because of Jimmy. To be clear, I don't have any personal problems with Mr. Beast, even though I think he ruined YouTube. You hear that, James? I'd take $1 million from you. Anyways, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of humanity's drive for whimsy and adventure being squandered on stuff like this. We need to dehumanize actual living people going through horrible situations to satisfy our desire for exploration, which can be done now with a screen instead of a map and compass. I say, if you aren't going to actually help these people and aren't being earnest about giving them a platform and forming honest relationships with them, leave them alone. It's a really gross thing to do. And like I said earlier, these videos are endless. You cannot patch this leak. Do we really need this many videos with this many identical thumbnails setting out to do the exact same thing? It's not only morally questionable for all the reasons I previously brought up, it's also creatively bankrupt. It's lazy content. Make some original videos because all I see here is slop. Except for the couple of good examples that I forgot to include in the video. If any of these people were real journalists, they would give us the truth about what lies under the South Pole and finish the job of our friend Mr. Army Symes Jr. They will show us some goddamn mole people, and I do mean actual mole people. Actual half mole, half man, living under the earth, not in a section of the surface. These aren't fucking mole people. These are human beings. I'm sorry, I'm actually realizing now that I was originally talking about US history and the hollow earth theory, and then I kind of took this huge detour. No, well, if you make this content or you support the morally questionable folks who produce this morally questionable content in any way, I hope that you will reflect upon what I said in this video. Maybe try to make it a little more tasteful or educate yourself more before setting out to make it. And if you lie on the internet for money and call it journalism, then I hope that you understand the errors of your ways, seek help from family or positive influences in your life, and change as an individual. I have a Patreon. I got some fun stuff over there. Now it's time for a special thank you to my wonderful patrons. Let's see them. Show me my patrons.